Hello and welcome to the Pixel-related podcast. This is episode 49, let's say.
I really should get better about getting these numbers down.
I really should. You know what it really comes down to is the number doesn't mean anything. That's really what it comes down to. You're here with us.
We got rid of episode titles. We're getting rid of numbers too.
We have episode titles. This one will be called Cuphead and other stuff, probably.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. So it's September 28th. It's almost 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I am your host, Kyle. With oh no, Adam's getting ready for something. That's always a scary thing when Adam gets ready for something.
Look, I'm in charge of ad reads now. I've got ad reads.
Oh, Lord.
This week's episode is brought to you by GoDaddy, not the website thing. It's Go, Daddy. There's some.
Is that a sex
interesting
thing?
stuff. I'm gonna save this for later. I'm gonna save that for later.
Like
That's for me. That's for my time.
Okay, so that's Adam.
Of course.
Yep. And then of course we have Gus with us as well.
What's going on, people?
All right. So as I already kind of alluded to today, the main reason that we're here doing this is because we do have a new game that has existed on the internet and people have been really excited about it for I feel like 5 years or something like that. How long has Cuphead been a known thing? It's been a long time. It feels like
it was launched. It was like
right.
was it the Xbox One premiere that they showed that stuff
Maybe.
off, or was it the year after that? I don't
know. So I mean,
Let
the reason that I think is, it's finally out. It comes out as you're watching / listening to this. It is available later today or today. Adam has been playing it. I haven't got a chance to check it out yet, although I will definitely do so. But I mean, the reason I think it probably got so much hype and so much interest is just because of what it actually is. Being this kind of like classic Mario's cartoon looking thing, but being an actual game is kind of insane. Like Adam's going to talk about it some more, but it looks absolutely gorgeous.
Yep.
And I cannot wait to check it out. So, I mean, we'll kind of go into that. We got some other news type things to talk about as well, but let's kind of dive into the big thing that we're going to talk about, and that's Cuphead. So, Adam, why don't you lay it on us?
2010 was when it started developing.
Wow.
So
that's a
Wow.
long time.
almost 8 years. Yeah, it's like insane, right? I think but I do believe like the first time that people were really talking about it was around the time of like Xbox One. Hey, we've got independent games too over here. Hey, and that was the thing that like you look at the art style, it's very old, like not quite Mickey Mouse style. Like I used to have as a kid, I used to have like a bunch of VHSs of old like 30s and 1930s animations because they were like super fucking cheap, and my mom's like, get it for the kid and fucking distract him, right? I think like everybody had something like that, right? Because like parents don't give a shit. Like give them something to distract me so I can have a couple minutes of peace and fucking quiet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can confirm. Can confirm.
Yeah.
That's what Netflix is today. It's your baby.
Exactly. So like Cuphead's like art style I think is like super distinct. It's like this 2D art that is very reminiscent of like 1930s cartoons, and it's got like very like what are they called, like pipe arms basically, like like they're just like these flexible pipes, and things like that. You've got like the animations where it's like the head just kind of like goes woo, and it goes like really large and shit like that. It's a really fucking gorgeous game. Like it's got a filter that plays over it that just like gives it that nice grainy quality to it. Like, hey, this thing was maybe found like in somebody's basement a while ago, and it like looks fantastic. Sounds fantastic too, which was something that I had kind of brought up with you guys. Like, it's a real shame that the Xbox One version doesn't come with a soundtrack. Like, you can get that on the Steam version, but you can't just buy that separately, at least currently, because the soundtrack's really good. Like, it's got this like really like jazzy sort of like, like swing jazz sort of soundtrack to it that really fucking works well. The game itself, like, it is almost all boss fights. So you kind of have like a little overworld map that you go to like an area, and they'll be like, the story of it is that Cuphead and Mugman, the two characters, found a casino, and they went in and they gambled a bunch of it, but it was actually the devil's casino. It's like, hey, you guys are winning a bunch. If you just take one more roll of the dice, you'll be able to win a bunch. You win everything in the casino. And Cuphead, being the asshole that he is like, no, throw, and he goes right away. And of course, they lose. And Satan says, like, if you want the chance to not die, you have to go out and collect these souls for me. So you are kind of just working for the devil.
Okay.
Which is, I guess, kind of the thing you would expect from the subtitle, don't deal with the devil. But yeah, so you go to these areas and they're like highlighted kind of differently. They've got that really nice animation quality. It's like I keep talking about the animation because I think it's really good. I always call it like the obviously different art style, where there's very clearly like a nice matte background that like looks just gorgeous. It's super painted. And then on top of it, they very clearly use like an entirely different art, like color palette and everything. So you can tell like, oh yeah, this is where I have to go, or this thing is going to what it actually ends up being with most animation. So, you go into it and they are boss fights. So you have to, kind of go around, and it's very Metal Slug like. So you have the ability to kind of like, you snap your fingers and it shoots out bullets. And you can like eventually like buy different upgrades, like different shot styles, different charms, which will give you different abilities. You can do like parries off of certain moves. So like if a pink bullet is about to shoot you, or like really anything pink, which is a thing that's really tough to get used to. Anything pink, you can kind of jump onto it, and if you hit another jump right off of it, it'll parry it. So that kind of gives you a charge to your ultra attack. So what it ends up being is it's really bullet hell in nature, which is maybe not a thing that I think gets communicated well in the trailers. Yeah. It is like a Metal Slug bullet hell. There's even like a couple of sections where you're using like planes and that sort of like alternate modes of defeating enemies. The boss designs are really interesting. They have kind of different phases, as you would expect, different bullet patterns with those different phases. They'll transform. Like there was one that we fought yesterday. The game also has like full co-op, and that's the way you should be playing this game. Like you're probably going to get really frustrated, I think, if you're playing it single player, because it doesn't seem like it's super tuned for single player. It seems like it's really designed for local multiplayer, and it works really well.
But it's only local, right? There's no online.
Yeah, there's no online. It actually kind of reminds me of this is going to be weird, like terminology, but like when we were going through like the raid, we were kind of like, you would like die, you take a death, and then you sit down and you talk about what happened, right? So like, okay, so when we do this thing, he's gonna throw out there's an example. There's a pretty early on boss fight where you have to fight two karate frogs, and they kind of work in tandem. So like one of them will start shooting like flies up in the air that are on fire, and then the other one will kind of do this like air punch thing that kind of delivers out a set of punches through the air. And so the first time we're going through it, it's like, okay, we just need to see what's going to happen in this first part of it. It goes through, it's like, okay, maybe we need to be jumping at this point because you will die pretty quickly. And then eventually you start seeing like, okay, there's a pattern to how these bullets are going out at this point. Okay, so when he does this move, or when you see like this animation, stay low, like duck down to the ground, because then you can avoid getting hit. Or when you see these symbols flashing or these different things kind of going around in the background, jump up because you know that there's going to be something coming in from off screen. Or hey, there's a like the one that I kind of got a little bit frustrated with today. There's like a set of trains that you'll kind of see in the background, and like when you see that train coming through, you know you got to be prepared to jump. But then he's also like kind of in the air, shooting out like just a straight vertical line. So it's like you got to kind of like almost like do just like kitty jumps into the air. And so you have to like kind of sit down and talk through like all of these parts of it when you're doing multiplayer, or if you're doing single player, you got to like think through it. There was a lot of talking going on with this game.
Okay.
Like, okay, like we gotta plan this thing out, because it's very it's very bullet hell. Like it's very like bullet hells by their nature. You got to do some amount of planning, right?
Yeah.
And when you're putting it into 2-player, like you have to be like communicating of like, okay, what's going wrong? What are we doing? Like, oh, you discovered this thing. Like, okay, like if we just duck down here, we're fine. We don't need to worry about necessarily jumping over the attacks, and we can still get some shots in. Okay, that's cool. So like that's what a lot of the game is. There's, you know, like I said, there's like a couple of levels where you're like doing flying stuff, and that stuff's cool. Then there are a couple of levels that I don't think are very good. And they are what are called in the games run and gun levels. So like I think there's like 2 for each world, it seems like. And they are literally like run through this level, do platforming, avoid enemies, and shoot, and then at the end there might be like a mini boss. And they're not great, because I think that a lot of the game is designed for you to be staying in maybe not a single position, but like a couple of positions on screen, right? So like I have to jump onto this platform that's kind of like hovering in the air. Okay, when he's doing this, like we should both be on this platform shooting at him, and then when this other thing comes out, we should be working on that. But then they add in this like, okay, now you got to move. You got to use your angular shots, and you can just choose like I think if you hit one of the bumpers, you just kind of like stay in position and you'll kind of shoot in a spray around.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, is how the controls work. So is it generally, well, it's not necessarily a dual stick shooter, it's you're shooting straight ahead or pointing up and pointing up, and then
yeah,
diagonal.
But then you can
so like if you so like if you're shooting forward, you're going to be, you know, pushing forward. You have like a default like, okay, I'm kind of crouched down, so that means I'm going to be shooting in this direction, or I'm crouched down in this direction. So like you get that, but when that gets put into moving through a level that has a lot of moving obstacles as well, that can be really frustrating to deal with, especially because a lot of that part of the game is concentrating on not necessarily like the big part is like you got to get through the level, obviously, but there are 5 coins in these levels alone, and those coins are what you use to buy upgrades. So if you want to be able to do more damage in the like main boss fights, or you want to maybe try out, like for example, I've got a charm that allows me when I do an air dash, I actually become invisible, which has the downfall of like I don't know where I am positionally, but I don't take any damage while I'm dashing.
Sure.
Okay.
So like as soon as I know like, okay, this portion of the screen is where I'm going to be dashing to, okay, I'm not taking any damage from that. Like I can just dash through enemies and I can get behind them and deal with them that way. Like my girlfriend, she was like using one that like gives you like a consistently recharging super, so that you can kind of always be popping those off.
But you basically have to be good at those middle levels to be able to get the coins, to be able to get the upgrades.
Yep.
So I mean that was the thing with Cuphead originally, is that it started out, from everything I've heard about it, it was just basically boss rush game.
Just bosses.
There was nothing but bosses, and then I guess at some point they felt the need to grow the gameplay or pad it out, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to call it, to kind of include these like extra platforming levels and stuff like that. And it sounds like that's maybe the game would have been better off just being a boss rush game.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I mean, there are only a couple of them, and like, for full context, like, they are few. Like I said, there's only a couple of them per level, where there's like 5 boss fights per world.
Wow,
There's like
that's a lot of
2 of those
bosses.
levels.
Whew.
Yep. Well, there's like, so I haven't finished it, but I want to say there are 3 worlds, and then there is the finale, which I assume is
all the bosses.
Probably. Well, there's a couple of bosses that like they point blank say like, oh, you got to go out and you got to get ready to fight the Dice King. That's going to be like obviously one of the last fights, or maybe the last fight. So like there's a lot of boss fights, and I will say, at this point I've died. They unlock a pool at the like midpoint of the game, where if you walk over, it'll tell you how many times you died. And I'm sitting around 500 at this point.
Okay.
Wow.
So, but levels, like once you get a level down, levels are really short. They're about 2 minutes each. Very short. It's just the path to getting them down is the entire experience. Sure. But I think those boss fights like work really well. Like, it was really fun to just go through and be like, okay, like, we're learning this part. Like, okay, this is a little bit frustrating. How are we going to deal with this? Okay, this guy, he's like throwing coins at us. So like, how do we avoid that? But also still build up our super meter and get some damage in on the guys. It also doesn't do a great job of doing any communication about like positionally where you are with a boss. And what I mean by that is, am I about to trigger the next phase? Am I about to go into the next section of the phase? So does it make sense for me to use my super move?
There's no like health bars or anything like that. Like,
no.
Okay.
The only way you know is at the end of a level, you get like a bar that shows, and it has like little dashes in the middle of it to indicate like, okay, here's where a form change is. Here's where another form change is. Here's where another form change is. And then like usually at the end, it's like, there's a pretty significant part of it that you're just spending with the final form. And like, that's cool. But like, it takes some time, and you usually do know when you're fighting the final form of a boss. For example, like the first one is like literally you kill it, and then a grave comes, like a gravestone comes down, and then you got to kill the gravestone. So like, obviously that's the thing. That's like your final form of it. Another one is like, there's this genie that you got to fight, and you go through all the phases, and then at the end he just becomes a giant fucking face, and he's got like pyramids that are like going in this big circle that are like shooting out lasers that are like insta kills. The reason I think that it's really better playing multiplayer is for a couple of reasons. Like, you can always revive your other player. Okay. And you do that by, if they die, if they lose all of their health, you go up and you perform a parry on them. And that will bring them back to life. They get 1 health, and you can keep doing that. Eventually, they will, like, if you die enough times, like, you will kind of like float away quicker and quicker and quicker. So it becomes tougher and tougher and tougher to get that parry in. But like, you deal significantly more damage, it seems like, with multiple players. I don't know for sure. I don't know how well it's balanced for a single player experience. They did a lot of work, though, to make it work as a multiplayer game. One thing that I love that more games have to do, if you go into any menu in the game and you got 2 players, except for like your start menu, any menus, so like your equip menus, like your store menus, things like that, like each player has their side of the screen where they make their selections. And like, if you go like, okay, I'm going to back out, like, you literally have to wait for the other player to back out too. Like, you can't just go like, oh shit, I backed out. You were in the middle of doing something. Sorry, let's go back in. Like, literally, it's like, okay, please wait for other player to back out. Like, that's fucking great. Like, that's something that more local games need. It's really good. Like, it's a solid game. Like, this game, I think, is worth. It's really been worth, I think, the 7.5 years or so development. They put a lot of work into it. I just kind of feel like they could have gained something by not having those run and gun levels.
Yeah, had a less or more type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I would heavily suggest, I would also like honestly at this point go get the Steam version if you're gonna get it. Get the version with the soundtrack because the soundtrack is fucking good, and I don't say that about a lot of games. It's rare that I'm like, yeah, there's some shit in here that I would just listen to, because it's really well performed. Yeah, Cuphead. It's fucking mirror. I'm amazed that I have played Cuphead at this point.
Yeah.
A significant portion of Cuphead, and I didn't think that was gonna happen. Man, that's insane, right?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
It kind of snuck out here at the end of September. Like, I knew it was coming out this fall, and then it was like, oh, that's just next week. Like, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like how fast it kind of came up upon us. You know, it's probably Destiny's fault, but
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of games like that though. Like last week, SteamWorld Dig 2 came out.
Yeah.
Golf Story just came out for the Switch. I really fucking want to play Golf Story. Like, it's great. Danganronpa V3 came out, and I knew we weren't getting a review code for that, so I was like, I'm gonna go buy that. Because things have happened with that company. We won't get into that here, but things have occurred between us and Spike Chunsoft. There's a lot of fucking games out right now, though.
And then next month, I mean, there's gonna be so many games that come out. I guess
it's gonna be crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say I didn't even know that there was a Steam version for this game coming out. Like all the promo I saw for it was on Xbox One.
Yeah, it's all about how it's Xbox Play Anywhere and all that.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah, I would guess it's because of how much money Microsoft has put into it. But like Microsoft is getting somewhat better about their Steam. Like Killer Instinct just came out on Steam as well.
Oh, wow.
Although it's not a free to play game on there, you have to pay $30 at this point to play it all. You get everything, which I think is worth the $30. But at the same point, I already have all of that shit on my Play Anywhere account. I'm not buying it again.
So I'm assuming the Steam version has to be online co-op, right?
It's all just local.
Really?
Yeah, it's all.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all of it's local. Which is, again, I think that's totally fine.
I mean, what happens a lot of times when you get kind of a smaller game like that and talk about like local, they just kind of go, internet stuff is hard. Like, we're not that big of a team. And internet stuff is hard, and it's like local is much easier to do because it's just like, hey, how do we deal with two inputs? Not how do we deal with two inputs on either side of the world or whatever that is.
Yeah.
How do you deal with input lag in a game like that? Well, the answer is fuck you. That's the answer. Nope, we ain't dealing with this bullshit. No. Nice. Yeah. So like. I think it's a good decision. I think it's smart. And like I said, like talking through this game with my girlfriend there is like, it's been a really fun experience, especially because usually games that are really difficult, I think have usually been described as the relationship breakers. And this one is super tough, but I feel like there's been a couple moments where I'm like, okay, I need a little bit of a break here. I need a couple seconds. But I feel like we also go like, okay, like, yeah, like if you do this, like, okay, maybe stay all the way back. Like, okay, this is how the bullets are going to go. They're going to go like this and then like this and like this. And like, you just kind of communicate that shit out and it works really well.
Cool.
So yeah, I do kind of wish this thing was on Switch though. Like that's the bitch of all of this. I really wish every game was on Switch.
I would say, Adam, I think you say that with every game. I really wish Destiny was on Switch. Oh man, playing Destiny on Switch, just
dude. If Destiny was on the Switch, look, they already put out a last gen version of Destiny 1. Like, just fucking throw it on the Switch. Let's go. Let's go.
Everything should be on Switch. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm really looking forward to checking out Cuphead. It looks good. I don't know. I'm hoping that it's not like too crazy difficult or hardcore for me. But I want to play it. Just if nothing else, I just want to see it in motion on my TV in all of its like 1930s or whatever time frame that's from. I don't know when that like Steamboat Willie. I don't know what all that stuff is from, but I want to see it in all its glory and just kind of see it moving around. Yeah, that's really cool. There's a couple other things that we wanted to talk about besides of Cuphead. One of the things is actually Battlegrounds. Adam, you and I are big fans of Battlegrounds. I was telling you earlier this week about my wonderful time not getting a chicken dinner and in second place, which was heartbreaking for me.
Not a smoky chicken dinner either. That's, man.
So
my heart breaks for you.
It's really tough. It was really. Yeah. I haven't played it in a couple of days. That was pretty heartbreaking. But so there's an update came out to Battlegrounds. They put a fog map in there, and I heard something saying that they were tuning it and they might scale the fog back. But man, it is very different game with the fog in there because it is really, really foggy. Like when you are dropping down out of the plane down to the island, you can't see the ground at all, and it's kind of amazing. And it kind of changed the entire dynamic of that game. To you can't have like super long range weapons like snipers and stuff like that just aren't practical anymore because you can't see that far. And that is how I made. That's probably the weakest point of that game. So maybe that's why I got second place because I wasn't having to worry about being far away.
I mean, that's a fundamental part of PlayerUnknown's and I think you'd probably agree. Like, range is the thing that wins matches in that game. Like, you will win a match if you have an 8x scope against somebody who has no scope. Like, not always, right? But the odds are pretty heavily in your favor when it comes down to the last couple of people. And so, goddamn, that fought, like, I especially, because I was like, man, I really just want to see this. I'm just gonna like go in, see if the fog spawns, and if it does, cool. If not, then I'm just gonna kind of like rotate through it. And I eventually got to like one. I was like, well, it's a little hazy, but I don't think this changes the game. Like, what do you mean this is a game changer? And I played through it and I died, and I was like, okay, let me give this one more try. Let me give it one more try, and then immediately, oh shit, I can't see anything. Like, we're on Lag Island. I cannot see to the other side where the other players are. Like, that is a fundamental game change to that. I hope they don't scale the fog back. I want them to keep it like that.
Yeah, I hope they keep it like that. And I mean, there's some frustration around that. It is still just you go into matchmaking and you get what you get. So it's not so you can't say, hey, I want to go play the fog map or I don't want to play whatever. So I mean, it is just one hopper. Or I mean, there's a bunch of different hoppers for each play style, like singles, duos, squad, whatever. But you can't specifically choose maps at this point. And I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem with it. Like, I don't necessarily want to go in and play like fog map 5 maps in a row or anything like that. And I don't, I just hope that whenever they get to the point that they release their second map, that there's an option for that. Like, if I want to go play the original map or if I want to play the new map, I don't know. You're not feeling the same way, Adam?
I kind of don't. Like, I kind of want to just be put into whatever situation I'm put into and have to adapt at that point. Like, I feel like that makes the game a bit more dynamic in how you have to play it. Like, hey, you have to deal with this situation. Hey, this time you're in this area that is like 8-story buildings, or hey, this time you're on the normal map. Like, fucking go. Yeah. Like, I just kind of like that. Like, hey, yeah, like you have to fucking deal with it. And at this point, we've not had a lot of things that changed the game as fundamentally as well. Like, lightning and thunder kind of does, just because of how it messes with sound. Yeah. But even that is like a thing that you're still like listening for. Like, okay, there are footsteps. Okay, I heard a door. Like, if you're playing it really stealthy, you're timing that all up with like thunderclaps, and that's like really interesting way to play that game. Yeah. But I kind of just want the experience when it's fully released to be this thing of like, deal with it, adapt. I definitely will have, like, when that second map comes out, I will definitely have a few instances where I'm like, now I'm going to go check out that other map. I'm going to keep quitting out of this match so I can go check out that other map, just because I want to check out the other map.
Yeah,
I want to see what
that's
it's about.
I foresee. Or it's like, hey, like, there's a new map out there. Like, man, I really like. What's it gonna look like on that new map on fog? Or I heard that the next one is they're gonna do. There's just a pure night one. that they're talking about. I think is the next weather condition or whatever you call it. But it's like when you have like 2, or maybe it's like a year from now where you have like 4 maps, let's say, or whatever, like the stars have to align perfectly for you to get, oh, I got map number 3 with the fog. It's like, yeah, you know, it's at some point they might need to look at that, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, game's not even out yet, technically.
It also keeps players like funneled into like the specific games that like hey, the original map, like nobody's playing in that, or a significantly decreased amount. And again, like that all depends on like where the fan base is. Like they are now the biggest game on Steam, period, of all time. So like you can't imagine that like there's going to be a significant drop necessarily anytime soon. Unless some other games come up and try to dethrone them.
Which,
segue.
Many games
it's crazy.
will certainly try. So yeah, that's the other kind of news that came out over the last week or so, is that apparently Bluehole is really upset about Fortnite deciding to make their own Battle Royale game type. I have not tried it yet. I actually want to go in and check it out, although I haven't played a ton of Fortnite. I've only played like maybe an hour or 2 of Fortnite. It looks exactly the same as Battlegrounds. Like, exactly the same. Like, at least, like, I know GTA did a Battle Royale type thing, but even that was less players, and it's, you know, it's a very different thing because GTA has a very different... Like, this looks exactly the same as far as the way that the interface looks, the way that it, like, the weapons are and stuff like that. Like, the only difference is that it's based in Fortnite, so you have this weird thing of, oh, I'm being shot, let me stop and build a wall in front of me real quick, now I'm safe. Like, that's cool, but Bluehole's real upset because not necessarily that they just made a Battlegrounds clone, because it's basically what it is, but that they put out press releases, they put out like official documentation from Epic that dropped Battlegrounds names in them.
Yep.
Leading to what they are looking into as possible like actionable items to sue Epic over for using their name to market a game that they had nothing
promote
to do
it. And that then becomes like a whole other messy situation, because like Unreal is the engine that PlayerUnknown's is built in, and like what does that mean? Like
there was something in there about like optimizations or features that they had kind of designed for their whatever they're using Unreal for, that could potentially be used and implemented in Fortnite's version of the same game. So even though they're licensing the engine, Epic could in theory use their the things that they've created,
their ideas,
like to help them. I don't exactly know how the Unreal works as far as the cooperation between like the slight changes and optimizations you make for your game, if that's just widely available to everyone on Unreal, or what exactly that works. That seems a little far-fetched to me. Like,
well, I mean, like it was brought up on Giant Bomb, but ask Dennis Dyack about that shit. Like, guess what? It didn't work out for well when Dennis Dyack tried to say that shit. I think it's scuzzy. Like, I think it's not cool to like actively like court another game, not seeking their approval, like in this advertising thing. But I don't know that it's illegal. I also don't think that it's a great idea to the first release that is free of Fortnite is only the Battlegrounds mode. Yeah. You can download Fortnite now for free, but you can only play the Battlegrounds mode. Like you're obviously trying to beat them to consoles.
Yeah.
Like
which also goes as far to like that, like all like that's pretty just shading, kind of ugly by itself. But in that same line, you have this game, you don't own proper Fortnite, so you don't get a tutorial. You don't have any idea like how to do any of the building stuff or the weapons. You basically just got to figure it out while you're also trying to survive from 99 other people killing you at the same time. It's a real weird situation that they've kind of put themselves in.
Yeah.
Like I said, I haven't got a chance to try it out on Fortnite. I'm curious. I want to check it out at some point because I'm just curious. I just like, it annoys me, like, the whole marketing and stuff like that. Like, maybe that's something you can sue people over, whatever. I don't know, like, defamation of brand or whatever you want to call it.
Unlicensed use of branding for your own.
Things like
but then
that's
also
probably actionable. I don't know.
That gets especially weird when you consider that they just did an entire update where you could buy shit from that is very heavily inspired by the movie Battle Royale, and they didn't license that shit for that game either. So,
wow,
man, like this.
Yeah.
I tend to fall on the side with this. There was also like stuff about how I don't know if it was Rock Paper Shotgun or if it was Eurogamer that did a report where they're like, yeah, also by the way, like player unknown Brendan, what's the guy's name? Brendan Green. Yeah. He used to work for Sony, and he kind of just snuck out with some assets from like one of the games he was working on with them, and that shit was used in Battlegrounds. So like it gets so messy in so many different ways. Like when you try to say like, yeah, like no, fuck them, like they're using our shit unlicensed, but like, well, like dude, you fucking started like by doing this shit. Like obviously it's not cool that it's like Epic and that your business partner doing this. But also like maybe tone it back. And they did tone it back. They initially were like, well, look, we're not angry about them having another Battlegrounds mode. Like we know that's a thing that's just gonna happen.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to deal with
patent a game mode, or I mean, that's just not a thing. You can't just pull it off. The thing that I'm most upset about in the whole thing is just how carbon copy their implementation of it seems to be. Like they have their own slight spin on it, but it seems very heavily like just the same thing. Like drop out of a plane that goes over a map in a certain direction, drop it into these points, the circle comes in and will kill you from there. Like it is just the exact same thing, and a lot of the interface stuff is just exactly the same. That's what just kind of strikes out as me, is just how unoriginal their use of it is. Like if you're gonna do it, like lean heavier on the stuff that separates Fortnite from any other game out there, you know, the building stuff and whatnot, and then maybe they will. Who knows?
I also like. I wonder if you're playing Fortnite right now. My feeling is there's a lot more shit that should be worked on with Fortnite besides adding a fucking PlayerUnknown's mod. Like there is shit that is in that game that you should be working more on. What's your turnaround? Like, did you guys just like come up with this in like a couple days? Or, like, what did other things that maybe could make that? Like, it's an early access game, and you're pushing this fucking mode out, and you're obviously taking some amount of development resources, like, and shifting them to make this fucking mode that you can put out for free when you're going to put out the entire game for free later. But there are other things that you need to work on with the main game that are not there. Like, man, that really must fucking suck if you're like somebody who's like, yeah, I really like playing Fortnite. Like, I don't know that there's a ton of people who are in that position at this point. But if you are, like, I cannot imagine looking at this and going like, yeah, that's fucking great. Like, you guys, like, put development on other parts of this game for this. Like, that's kind of fucked up. That's where I get kind of frustrated with it is there's so much shit about Fortnite that I think is skeezy and like underhanded. Like, you put out a disc-based version of that game that has no indication that it's early access whatsoever. You then decide to make it free, but only this one part so that you can beat PlayerUnknown's to consoles. Like, man, it's really fucking ugly, and it rubs me the wrong way, but not in a way that I think is illegal. I think it's just shitty. Yeah. Like, that's, you know, like, I don't know that there is actionable stuff here, and they've said like, yeah, we're in talks with our lawyers to kind of see, and Epic's response was like, we're not saying anything. Yeah, like if you're going to start talking,
we're not going to say anything.
Yep. So like, sense. Yep. So like, yeah, it's an all around ugly situation. I tend to side I see where there are some pretty clear hypocrisies
Yeah.
with Bluehole on this stuff, and I think that shit's not cool either. But also, man, it feels so much different when it's Epic doing it. Like in the way
Yeah,
that they have
that's the
done it
thing.
in this way. Like Bluehole, this is like a relatively smaller project than even probably Fortnite was. So like having those resources and this is what you do with them, that's just it's ugly. It's a thing that I don't think looks good for them. But again, I don't think it's illegal.
I was gonna ask you guys, do you think it was a mistake for Bluehole to put out a press release, or because putting out a press release like naming Fortnite, you kind of put more attention on Fortnite as opposed to maybe taking this behind closed doors and seeing what you can accomplish like that. Do y'all
I
think they
think
should?
it was just that I should have looked it up. I don't remember their vice president. I don't know what his name is. Kind of came out in an interview like said some stuff, and I think the press release was kind of just to walk back some of the stuff that he said to go like
Oh,
no
okay.
like it's not that so much like it's not that they made a battle royale game mode. It's this other like I think they wanted to step back and kind of save some face or clarify what exactly that they were upset about as a company after
Yeah.
kind of their VP kind of came out and said some stuff kind of more off the cuff, just kind of in an interview. Yeah, I don't know. I think that the probably nothing will come of this as far as actual like legal action or
No.
anything like that. I would be surprised. And I think Battlegrounds will be just fine. Because I mean, from
I
all intents and purposes, Fortnite's not. I mean, maybe it'll evolve. I mean, look, it's an early access game. Games definitely evolve from being one thing into other things over the course of time. Maybe this will turn out that this is the thing that is much more popular for Fortnite, and they will start skewing the development and building towards that thing, and less from the co-op, horde mode building stuff.
Yeah.
But that game's not really designed for shooting other people. It's for shooting, like, monsters that have big health bars and stuff like that. So that's when if I ever get around to trying it out, that's what I'm curious about is just how the actual action in that plays, because that's
Not what
not
it's
what those
designed
weapons are
for.
for, like
Yeah.
the weapon and then
Yeah.
the weapons, like we were talking about how much Battlegrounds is about range and picking people off from a distance and kind of staying hidden. And Fortnite's not that. Fortnite is like up and close with like shotguns and swords and stuff like that. At least from the little bit I played of it.
I think they said they just got their first scope in that game.
Okay.
Like they just
Wow.
implemented a scope specifically.
Yeah, because from what I played, there wouldn't ever really be need for a quote unquote scoped weapon in that kind of horde mode version of it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. Like, if that ends up being the thing that's really popular, and they find something and there's a dedicated people that really like that, they'll start skewing development towards that and probably away from the other stuff, and that might upset some people. But I mean, hey, I guess it's early access. They can kind of make the game whatever they want it to be, when it's said and done. So I was just thinking about this because you were talking about on consoles. How is PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds going to work on consoles? Because from my understanding, a big portion of how Battlegrounds makes its money on Steam is through all the purchases that happen through the Steam store, right? Like the exchange of the goods and Steam gets their 5% cut and Battlegrounds get theirs like 5% cut.
That probably just won't be there.
Right?
I mean, like that. I mean, like I think that I mean, in theory, you could probably say like, oh, hey, now we've got 3 crates that require you to use keys or whatever, and that might be how they recoup that amount.
Yeah,
but
do they completely change the way that microtransactions work in that game? Because as of right now, I can't actually specifically spend money on something for Battlegrounds, right? Like you're just buying stuff from other people that have unlocked that stuff.
Yeah,
right?
you're purchasing stuff off the marketplace.
Yeah, and then Battlegrounds gets a piece of that pie, but there's no infrastructure like anything like that on consoles.
No.
So that'll be curious to see how that looks when it comes down to it.
I also think like part of it, I think that maybe helps it is that Microsoft is helping so much with the development on it, where they're probably they're probably eating a lot of the cost just so that they can say, "Hey, we have it on Xbox One and Xbox One X."
But I mean, whether or not Microsoft is the case, like the point that they've talked about it was to get it on consoles at some points. I guess I'm just curious what that will look like when it gets on consoles, as far as their, because it's only a $30 game. We've talked about this. Like, there's, for something that is that popular, they definitely want to be able to monetize that in some way, as an ongoing living experience.
I mean, maybe it gets bumped up in price too. Like, maybe they do the early access thing that like We Happy Few did, which is like, hey, games out of early access, now it's gonna be $60 or $50 or even $40. So they've got like ways that they would be able to. I wouldn't say recoup, because I think that the day that game comes out on Xbox, it's probably gonna be a pretty good day.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So like, I don't know exactly how much they're concerned about that. Also, like, they've said in the past that they're not sure of how unlocks are going to work, period, when the full game is out. They've said that there might not be any way to get free items at all, which I think is fucking terrible. Like, that is the worst idea. Don't do that, for the love of God.
I mean, it would definitely kill some satisfaction I get out of playing that game. A big part of it is getting your currency and buying your crates over the course of the week. And if they take that, and they're bad crates anyways, we talked about this, how bad the actual crates and how bad the drops are in that game.
Whatever. After I bought like 5 or 6 crates, I was able to recoup my entire purchase and then some. I don't know what you're talking about.
True. You gotta spend money to make money. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm surprised that, like, I feel like they're probably losing money in the fact that you can't just go buy crates. Like, just pay $4 and whatever and just buy a crate, or buy a premium crate that's guaranteed at least a blue drop or whatever. I guess probably the issue you'd run into that with is that would probably throw the entire Steam marketplace into chaos if you could just spend $5 and get something that could potentially sell for $30 or $10 even, like.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, Bluehole would probably be okay with that, because they'd be making money over here and they'd be making money over here.
At that point, you just say like, hey, all of the free shit, like all the scrub tier shit, you can buy on the marketplace, but on the premium currency, I would really just like to be able to go like, hey, $30 gets you like these specific items, so you don't ever have to fucking worry about crates ever again, for fuck's sake. Why is this not just a fucking thing?
If you're not working towards the crate drops, then what are you working towards? Like, why are you even playing?
I'm working towards a fucking chicken dinner. That's what I'm working towards. I'm working towards the point of the game.
All right, Adam, 2 hours from now, you just want a chicken dinner. You're not going to stop playing Battlegrounds. Come on now.
You need that carrot.
Then it's going to be a thing of, I'm going to be like, hey, Kyle, like, it's time for us to get our duo chicken dinner on. Like, let's go.
I'm ready to. I will take a chicken dinner whichever way that I can get a chicken dinner at this point.
I would really like a chicken dinner. That's what I would really like out of this whole thing. Yeah, like I don't know. I feel like it's a thing of like, at this point I put in like 25-ish hours or so into that game, and I keep being like, I really fucking want to play more of that game. And when I get to that chicken dinner point, it's probably gonna be like, okay, pause. We'll come back at the next update. The next big update, like the fog update or the night update.
I would even say that we were talking about like the carrot on the stick. Like, I think the carrot on the stick could be substantially better for Battlegrounds. Like, for a $30 game, to have you working towards something, like you're not leveling up, like you're not, like you get a, like, the cost of the crates that you can buy each week go up with each crate that you purchase. So the first one is $700, then it goes to $1,400, then it goes to $2,800, and it's like, okay, like, should I only play enough to get coins for the first 2 crates and then just save my money for next week, because like I'm just losing money at that?
That's
so, like,
weird.
I feel like, and then you only get 1 item from the crate anyway, so it's like, and I know it's still in early access, but I feel like they could be doing a better job of making me want to play, like Destiny. Destiny does a great job of making me want to get in there and play on reset day on Tuesday. And I have all these things that I can do, and I'm working towards something, and I'm unlocking things, and I'm getting my points up higher, and it's all that means nothing anyways. But
we should work on that carrot on a stick with a Nightfall. Okay, that's just what I'm saying right now.
I'm with you. I haven't done Nightfall yet this week. That's the last.
Let's do it.
That's the last milestone I have.
I can write a review. I can write a review in like an hour's time. Like that's fine. Let's fucking go. Let's do this shit.
But anyway, I think Battlegrounds could do a better job of that with the carrot on the stick.
Totally. I think like that is a problem that I've felt since like day one with that game, but I also feel like every time that I see like hey, Giant Bomb did a video and they got a chicken dinner, or
they did.
Or like, hey, Waypoint did a video and they got a chicken dinner. Waypoint, by the way, like if you're not fucking watching Breakfast and Battlegrounds, like man, they've got a fucking great stream. They've got the best goddamn titles for all of their videos, period whatsoever. I'm just gonna pull up Twitch real quickly and get you the name of a couple of them because they're amazing.
Breakfast and Battlegrounds is really good.
Breakfast and Battlegrounds is great.
What did Patrick Klepto used to do? The Mario in the mornings or Monday Mario? He had a really good name for his Super Mario Maker things that he would do every Monday or whatever, or every morning, whatever it was.
Like every time that I see somebody being like, I got chicken dinner like that, I got my chicken nugget dinner meal in my tumby, so good, you know what I mean? Like that's where I'm at. Like I want to play more of it. Okay, episode 66. Won't you get hip to this timely tip when you make that evangel trip? I don't even know. I can't read it. That's Twitch on iPad is terrible. Twitch on iPad,
some type of song. I don't recognize it, but I'm sure it is.
Some hip hop right there.
I see. Right. There was but yeah, like every time I feel like that is, but I'm not getting that from the game. I'm getting that from shit outside of the game, and that's a problem. That game has.
No, I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily a problem. There is definitely something to be said about a really interesting game to watch being streamed, and Battlegrounds is definitely one of those. And you know what? And I don't know if it's like alleviating the tension that you don't feel because you're not the one physically pushing the buttons. But
it's not on you.
Watching them go, all right, I dropped. Oh, I'm dead. I'm like, yep, I've done that. I've lost that first fist fight battle, and I've been out. And you just brush yourself off and get back out there. And sometimes they make it down and they get their hearts broken, and you get to see a couple chicken dinners here and there. It's a good game to watch streams of.
Awful Squad on Polygon. There's a couple of streamers who I watch. Rev Scarecrow, like he did one last night with somebody, and I was watching the other person's feed, and they're just like, "Oh shit, there are two people. Oh, I'm dead." Okay, like as soon as they dropped, it's like, "Yep, that's happened to me. That's definitely happened. That's a thing that I know happens." And then they did it again, and immediately again they got it. It's like, okay, yep, I know this feeling of having a really bad streak. Okay, so. Episode 67, Happy Hump Day. That's it. That's all I got today. Too busy trying to get over this hump.
All right.
You guys need to stream more PUBG because, as soon as you all get a chicken dinner, that needs to live forever.
Yeah. Well,
on the channel.
I do. I should probably stream it when I play. And I play a lot, and I record every session that I do.
Just in case.
No lie, the reason I don't stream is that I'm worried that having the stream running and having me connected to PUBG is going to give me a little bit of lag or give me something right
That's
at the
funny.
wrong moment. And if streaming something on Twitch causes me to not get a chicken dinner, I would probably, I don't know where Twitch is, but I would find out where they're located and I would go do something to that building. No, not really.
I would quit. Yeah, I would quit putting any videos up, period, if that happened. That happened when I was recording episodes of Addam Learns Battlegrounds. That happened. That straight up happened where I had a string of instances where it was okay, I'm in this spot, I'm doing really good, things are going great. Fuck, there's stream hitching, or there's video hitching. I'm dead. Okay, that's cool. I had no opportunity whatsoever because of the video recording hitching. So I'm no, not doing that again. I guess I'm just gonna run the background program that will consistently record but not actively record. Yeah. So I it's also a thing of I don't want to deal with people who just go into looking for player unknown streams, because there are some really shitty people who do that.
I'm small time.
Yeah,
No one will find me. No one will find me. Never see me.
Yeah.
You'll never see me coming.
But
I can
And
take.
even
I can
if they
take,
do,
I can take
you
our little
can-
Pix-related podcast. I can put that right over the map if I really feel that I can do it. I got the methods. I got the ways.
You got the ways. Yeah.
All right, so there's one last little bit of news that I wanted to talk about, and I say I specifically because I am a giant fan of Red Dead Redemption, and they put out the second trailer, right? Because there's the first, like, just kind of a teasery trailer that they put out, right?
Yeah.
This is the second full for Red Dead Redemption 2. They confirmed some things that I was concerned about, aka they're not going back to John Marston, but it does appear to be a prequel to Red Dead Redemption. Just it is just not the same. You see Dutch, the guy from the first game, is in this trailer, and he's part of it.
yeah, you're following Dutch's gang.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a John Marston moment.
Oh
in it.
yes,
Like, that's
John
going to
Marston
happen.
will show up in that at some point. Like that is very much.
It'll be
gonna
like It'll be like the Grand Theft Auto 4. What was it? There was the DLC where like was it Claudio from Grand Theft Auto 3 sort of just showed up as a background character, and he didn't have like any voice lines at all. It's going to be like that, but with this, he's going to be like, oh, there's John going on the train. Oh, okay, that's what led up to him getting on the train. Great.
That's funny. That's really funny. So I mean, we'll just kind of talk about it a little bit here. They did. I'm sure that it probably been said at some point, but it does say spring 2018. That means it is sooner rather than later. Like a lot of people were thinking it might be holiday. GTA and Rockstar Games, etc., are big enough that they don't need to stand by your standards of holiday shopping and stuff like that. They will sell millions of copies no matter what. I guess like GTA 5 is still selling like crazy. Like it was number 2 in the NPD last month, which is insane for how old that game is. Just printing.
I think that game also had like some pretty heavy sales too. I think
Probably,
there was.
I'm sure.
Like there was.
It's been
there
out
was
for like 4
I,
years. Of course, it has pretty heavy sales. I mean,
yeah. I don't know if does NPDs include digital downloads at this point, or is it physical only?
I don't think they deal with digital. I think they just do physical copies, which is again,
which makes that
surprising.
I think even crazier. In all honesty,
exactly.
like.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people like it's gone half off on Steam, and it's been in the top 10 of Steam pretty consistently. It's never been number 1 because number 1 is only for Battlegrounds, and Battlegrounds will never leave number 1.
Now, like before it was Dota, and now it is Battlegrounds. Yeah. So I mean, we never needed any other MOBAs ever again. I hope you I hope you deleted Heroes of the Storm, because I did.
I mean, I did actually delete Heroes of the Storm, but I had a good run with Heroes of the Storm.
It was good. It was fun.
The new MOBA is Battle Royale modes, though. That's what it's going to be. Like, now everyone is going to make a Battle Royale game, and they're going to put it into their other games, and we're going to get a Lord of the Rings Battle Royale mode, and it's going to be crazy, crazy stuff. There was the Lord of the Rings MOBA.
I fucking know the
that?
reference you just made, Kyle. I know the reference you just made.
Guardians of Middle Earth, I think is what it was called.
I forgot about that.
I tried out that one. That one seemed like it was okay.
I was thinking about that a couple days ago. I'm like, hey, Kyle, that's fucking Guardians of Middle Earth on a Steam account. Okay.
I don't think that must be a free-to-play game. There's no way I bought that, or maybe I think
I saw it. Maybe I got it with a pack.
Maybe I got it with a pack.
Yeah,
at some point.
something like that.
Look at. I got a lot of games on Steam that I have no idea that I own. Anyways, Red Dead Redemption 2.
Can't wait for the Battlegrounds mode in Red Dead Redemption.
I mean, honestly, yeah, that would work pretty well. To be
they all get thrown in by train. Like you have a train.
Yeah, maybe
that like goes through the map. You have to jump off.
Maybe you just spawn in a random place. Maybe you don't just jump out. Whatever. They had parachutes back then. It's fine. But I think it looks really interesting with Red Dead because John Marston was a very non-Rockstar character. Like, he was straightforward. Like, he was a gentleman. Like, you're not, like, in the brothels sexing up all these prostitutes and stuff like that. Like, I mean, whatever. He could tie a person up and put them on a train tracks or whatever, but that's your choice. John Marston didn't want to do that. This guy, and I should have written it down. I forgot the name of the protagonist. He seems
Arthur
like
Monroe.
Okay, he seems like a total skeeveball. Like, he seems like he is doing really nasty, really evil stuff. Like, there's a part in there where he's talking to someone's, like a little kid, and he's like, once your mom is done mourning her husband, maybe I'll help you guys stay in the black as long as your mom's okay. Like, what? Like, no, that's really gross. Don't do that. Don't tell the kid that. That's terrible. Like,
seems like a real asshole.
yeah,
it's
he
kind
seems
of
like he's a real bad guy. And that's going to be an interesting change of pace for a Wild West game to kind of really embrace being a bad guy, because you've always been a bad guy in the GTA games. Different shades of how bad you are. You know, you have GTA 5, you have Franklin, who is a thug but kind of just trying to do the right thing, kind of just trying to make money, you know, doesn't really care. And then you had Trevor, which is completely, you know, insane. So I think it'll be nice to see kind of a Western game just letting you just be an overall just truly bad guy, like being someone who is wanted, robbing banks and, you know, killing pedestrians in the street and stuff like that, you know. That could be really cool. I'm super excited. It looks gorgeous. Like, the game looks amazing. The characters and, like, the animations and stuff like that all look good. Yeah. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's actually Arthur Morgan. I'll correct myself on that. Arthur Morgan is the name of the guy. But
I bought it.
Also, man, that fucking game looks really, really pretty.
Yep.
Though
Yeah,
is the other part of it. And it's going to be a goddamn shame if that thing does not come to PC.
Adam, I have bad news for you. I have really bad news for you.
Yeah.
Coming to PC in 2020.
Wow.
Yep. No, I don't know if that's what it is, but
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. No, I would. Man,
It was.
I
want to say it was a 2-year delay before it hit PC for GTA 5.
Yep.
It was. It came out maybe it was like a year and a half, but it came out in the fall on old consoles. Came out the next fall on new consoles, and then it was 6 months to a year after that it came out on PC. So
sounds right.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a real goddamn shame. Because man, that game looks pretty. Yeah, and like I was just like looking at some of that video in motion, and it is gorgeous. Like, it is visually just, you know, like these great wide vistas, and like, you know, oh, like, hey, here's this like forest area, and like here's like the snow. Like, it just looks great. Like, it's fucking looks great. I am really interested to see what that story is, because I think, yeah, like, this guy's a total dickhead, and I get this feeling that it's not going to end well for him. I don't know where I get that. Like, maybe from the first Red Dead game. I don't know.
Maybe it ends with John Marston killing you. And then he gets on the train.
He gets on the train, yep. And then, right.
Yes. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to spoil it for you guys. I apologize. That was... I've been in some meetings with Rockstar, and
legitimately, I think we just spoiled the ending of this game. I want this episode marked down just so we can come back to it and just be like,
we called it. We called it. September 28th. We called it. Ending of Red Dead.
Yeah, but like, yeah, it's the game that I'm excited for. Like, man, fucking great. It looks fantastic. I think those guys do that kind of story, you know, for as much as I think like having diversity in games is like an important thing, and having different experiences in games be a thing is important. The fact that Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead, they've been very upfront with saying, like, this is the story we know, and this is the story we want to tell. I think that is honest, which is more than I can say for a lot of developers on these kinds of stories. I can respect that. And if this is the story they want to tell about this very clearly asshole-ish character, this probably psychopath in the Old West, I think that could be potentially very interesting. Especially considering how well they did characterization for, you know, the characters in GTA 5 and in Red Dead. Man, it could be great.
Yeah, it'll probably be my favorite game. just that. Just
of 2018.
Probably just my favorite game, period. Just no. It's one of those few games. Like, it's very, very few we get a game comes out that like has potential to be like the best game ever made, you know, or I mean, you know, best game of the generation or whatever you want to call it, and like those don't come along very often, and this one definitely has the potential to be one of those games. Usually they don't. You know, like the last, like what's the last one that was like potentially be the best game ever? Like, I mean, well, Destiny 2, but kind of, but whatever.
The Last of Us.
The Last of Us. Like Fallout could have been one of those. Obviously, was not.
Fallout 4 definitely could have been one of those, and it's absolutely not.
You know, like you got.
It's not even the best Fallout game. That's that's.
I mean, you got like Breath of the Wild, which is definitely in the running for something like that. But I mean, you know, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be really good, and I am very excited. And you know, not that long to wait. It sounds like so. Yeah. We'll see what that.
How do they follow? How do video games follow up this year? Is my big question. Besides Red Dead, like how do they follow everything that's come out this year up next year? Probably not very well, right? Like next year's probably not going to be as good as this year.
Halo 6, man. Halo 6, best game.
Halo 6.
One of the best games of all time.
Excited for 343. Finally they're finally gonna do it right.
They're gonna finish their trilogy. They're gonna do it right.
Hopefully, Last of Us 2.
Last of Us 2 could be next year. Yeah, but there's some good games on the horizon that could be real interesting. But yeah, I mean, look at you. Just look at Nintendo, and you got Mario and Zelda in the same year. Not to mention all the other stuff they got going on at the same time. Like, that's tough to be like. What does Nintendo put out next year that's gonna surpass Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey? Like, no.
Kirby.
Metroid Prime 4.
Kirby.
Nope. None of those.
Kirby.
Sorry, none of those.
Yep.
Work.
No, Kirby. No. I don't. Let me make sure that I'm making myself clear here. Kirby. Kirby. Let me name off the 5 greatest rappers of all time. Kirby, and Kirby.
You know, Kirby doesn't he doesn't talk a lot. Maybe not the best choice for a rap. All right, we need to get out of here because we're just the tracks are way over there somehow. I don't know, like
normal,
way off of them at this point. Been very derailed. Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. Again, we are Pix Related. You can find us on Twitter at @pixel_related. Hit us up with any feedback, any questions. We would always love to hear from you. We are on YouTube at Pixel Related. We are the website pixelrelated.net. And that's our show for this week. We're going to have a review posted for Cuphead. Probably by the time you are watching / listening to this, it is already up there on the website. So check that out to hear Addam's final thoughts of everything to do with Cuphead. And
it's gonna be a lot of. It's gonna be a lot of this stuff, but I think there's also more to be said that I didn't quite get into as deep as I want to on this episode. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Yep,
that's what reviews for. I love reviews. Yep. I love writing reviews. I do enjoy reading reviews. Yeah, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for listening / watching. We will see you next time.